Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Third and 20 Dynasty Podcast. I'm JT, joined by Jake and Frank. No Lunas today. It is Frank's birthday. Happy birthday to Frank. The grind doesn't stop. He's even here on his birthday doing the pod. So happy birthday to Frank. You guys are all one step closer to gaining his identity and all of his cool fantasy teams. Just need his mother's maiden name and
Social
his
security
street address.
number.
Yeah, social security. Anyway, speaking of Frank, he also lost in a brutal heartbreak fashion in our home league with the Najee Harris run to end out the game. Just wrapping up some other loose ends. Congratulations to Parker in the 3rd and 20 league, our own dynasty league that we ran. It was fun playing with everyone. Hope to see you all again next year. Obviously, grind doesn't stop though, so I'll probably be trying to make trades already after this episode's ends. All right, so let's kick it off though. Yeah, thanks everyone. Let's kick it off with the news and notes. I guess big injury news. Gallup tore his ACL. That will probably almost certainly be leading into next season. So that is frustrating. Was this the last year of his contract too?
Yeah, he was a pending free agent, which I
Oh.
really hate to see it because I was really kind of expecting Gallup to move on and take on a bigger role on another team where he's not overshadowed by the likes of CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. But honestly, now with this injury, I kind of see him re-signing with like Dallas on a 1-year deal, prove his worth when he comes back healthy for the end of the season kind of thing, and see what he could do.
I could definitely see that.
What's the timetable? Is he in jeopardy of missing the start of the season?
I mean, ACLs
I'd have to
nowadays
imagine.
generally run, 8 months minimum usually?
I have no idea.
Well, I'm trying to think of all right, so Saquon, when did Saquon get injured?
Week 2 last year.
Yeah, and it took him like a full year to get back up to speed. Now it's running back and it's not wide receiver. I don't know what the different positions mean. But yeah, I gotta imagine he's not going to be 100% for the beginning of the season.
I would assume
We're
he
not
starts the
doctors,
year on the PUP and then comes off it in the middle of the season some point.
So I'm wondering, has his price even moved down? To be completely honest, has it moved down?
I don't know if it's moved significantly. Yeah, I don't know if keep trade cuts had enough time to react to it, but I just think it sucks to see, and I think people are going to shy away from him now.
Not really. His price, at least on keep trade cut, hasn't moved down. Maybe a smidge. It's moved down, but not really at all.
Look, Michael, that is nuts to me. I didn't know that. Michael Gallup's ranked above Cortland Sutton on keep trade.
Cortland Sutton's had a rough end of the year.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, and it's not like Michael Gallup's putting up significantly better stats than Cortland Sutton.
Well, here's kind of what I wanted to say is, what if, kind of like my argument with CEH early in the season, where he just got injured now. I think even with the recent injury news, it's not really going to be priced in a ton. I don't think, especially because you're going to have the managers that think, oh, yeah, well, next season, whether they want to admit, like, oh, yeah, maybe he won't be healthy for week 1, but they're thinking, okay, week 3, week 4, middle of the season, he should be fine and be ready to go. I'm kind of thinking, what if I could get off of him now, unless I really like him long term? What if I got off of him now for a pretty damn similar price to what he was going to go for, and just move into a Juju or something else, another asset in a similar category, a similar tier that I think just has a better chance of gaining value, unless I really like him and I want to stash him.
Yeah, I'd try and move him for Juju if I could. I think the part that everyone's missing too is like the season's over for fantasy at least. So, you're not going to realize that he's missing from your team and from the lineups that you're saying. So it is psychologically, it's not going to affect you as much that he's going to be out for a long time. So yeah, I think it's even a better scenario than CEH in terms of he I won't lose that much value because at least with CEH, like he was missing, and then Darrell Williams was actually playing playing well for the Chiefs. I'm moving Michael Gallup for anyone in those tiers because first off, he's older than most players that are ranked around him.
Isn't he only
Mike
20,
Williams,
26?
26, 27,
Yeah, see, that's the one thing that I like about Gallup is that he's ready to go into this prime age to really start producing and get back to that 1,000-yard season and being a very like a wide receiver too for my fantasy. I mean, now with the ACL injury, that might be out the window, but
I just don't. When I'm looking at Michael Gallup's like talent level compared to the players that are around him in the rankings, I just don't see Michael Gallup as the same kind of player. Obviously, you guys all know how I feel about Kadarius.
Michael Gallup has put up an 1,100-yard, 7-touchdown season in the NFL. He's a very talented wide receiver. I don't think that's the issue with Michael Gallup.
He did that as the wide receiver too on the Cowboys. I think that compared to Cortland Sutton having to be the main guy on the Broncos and doing it with freaking Drew Lock, like I'd much rather have Cortland Sutton. I think I'd rather take the gamble on Michael Thomas coming back and being good again than I would Michael Gallup. Like the players that are ranked around him on keep, trade, cut, just it doesn't feel like that's where Michael Gallup belongs, in my opinion. And if I could move off of him into basically any wide receiver in that tier, I think I would.
I listen. I think that Michael Gallup is one of the more difficult players to rank, especially now with the injury, because I liked buying him at that keep, trade, cut value. What he was like a mid-second around. I thought that was a decent purchasing price, especially maybe not necessarily this draft, but dude, it's tough to get a guy with his profile and his success in the NFL in the second round. Like he's almost what you want some of your second round picks to turn into. But I don't know. It's weird. I guess I might try because the one problem I have with Gallup is that I think that you would really struggle to package him with like a first round pick and really get a premium asset on top of that first.
Yeah.
What I might like to do on top is just package him with, a late first, move up a few picks if you want to do something like that. Package him with a second, try to get a late first. Try to just move up a little bit in the draft with them.
See, I just don't think that the value is there to do something like that. Because like we did that in our rebuild league with Darnell Mooney, and even though Darnell Mooney's had a pretty good season, I was pretty happy with that deal because even now Darnell Mooney was almost a top 24 receiver, may have actually cracked into the top 24 with his performance last week. You'd still be hard pressed to get a first round pick for him. I don't think you would be in most leagues. So like. Gallup is now, I don't know. I think he's a similar talent level to Mooney, but you're not going to be able to get the value now with the injury unless you're moving for like a Juju or going down. Maybe you can move him for a Corey Davis and get something. I don't know. I would try just because I think that the injury hasn't really set in on his price, both on keep, trade, cut. And I think that that is going to be reflected in leagues. Keep, trade, cut isn't perfect, but I do think that they've gotten it right in this scenario where his value really hasn't dropped all that much.
I trade Michael Gallup for, according to Keep Trade Cut, this is a trade that you could almost certainly make. It's Tyler Boyd and a third, and they're like 304, I'd say, for Michael Gallup.
Yeah, I agree with you, JT. I'd rather go down to try and get a receiver that I think is in a similar tier that the community might not be as high on, that has a similar profile, similar talent level, all that. Maybe it's a little less sexy. Maybe they're a little bit older, but you'll get production and then you can get another rookie pick. And it doesn't have to be this year. You could go for that 2023 third. You could go for that 2024 third. You could go for a pick swap, a 2020, like you offer a third this year and you get a second in 2024. It's not going to be the sexiest deal, but you're obviously not going to get a sexy deal for a guy that just tore his ACL. And it's in this kind of scenario where he's not necessarily had a down year, but it's not the year that you were praying for by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm-hmm. All right. So moving on, I just mentioned Tyler Boyd, and let's just talk about the Bengals.
Can I hide?
Nuclear again.
You should, Frank. You really should.
I really should.
Guy. The sell all Bengals guy. They went nuclear against Jake's sell all Ravens last week. Then this week they just went nuclear again against reigning Super Bowl losers, Kansas City Chiefs. Just crazy stuff from Joe Burrow in back-to-back games. I think he has nearly 1,000 yard passings and 1,000 yards passing in the past 2 weeks. Jamar Chase broke the rookie receiving record in the 16 games. He didn't need a 17th game to do it, which will create problems for the future, but doesn't matter now. It only took him 16 games. T. Higgins was still awesome. Tyler Boyd even looked good. Like, just this whole Bengals offense as a whole just did the opposite of what Frank was telling you during the offseason. And I do think they're going to be disappointment in the playoffs, but I think in terms of like an actual team and like what they have to build around, I do think they are a force for the future.
Absolutely. I just think they don't have enough experience for this year in the playoffs. I think they're going to struggle. Most of that team's first playoff appearance will be this year. But in the future, this team's, at least on the offensive side of the football, is just absolutely loaded. They have the core of Burrow, Chase, Higgins, and Mixon locked up for the next 4 years already. So this team doesn't look like it's going anywhere in the AFC North over here.
My one issue, though, is I think the play of Burrow and the receivers and even Joe Mixon is masking Zach Taylor as a coach. Because
he just has so much talent that you can't mess this up.
I mean, it took them over half the season to start passing the ball at an above average rate. Like, that to me is ridiculous.
They ran like 8 goals. They almost blew the game against the Chiefs because of how many goal line plays they ran. Like,
the end of that game was
everyone across
ridiculous.
The nation was just going, kick it. Yeah. I get that. It worked out in the end, but it took some lucky flags and everything. And, it was lucky that they were able to end the game the way that they did.
See, my question more on this whole Bengals topic is like, okay, Jamar Chase, wide receiver 1, like a wide receiver. Whether I still think that Justin Jefferson's the wide receiver 1, but fuck it, moot point. They're both really fucking good.
There's no question they're wide receiver 1 and 2. I think at this point.
Yeah, and if you have Jamar Chase, whether he's wide receiver 1, 2, 3, he's up there, right? That's not a question. My question mark more so is Joe Burrow, because I like Joe Burrow coming out. In my quest of being wrong on the Bengals, was not comfortable drafting Burrow in that top 5 super flex startup, where I was very comfortable drafting a guy like Justin Herbert. And I've seen that there are people that are now ranking Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert and even into possibly like a top 3 dynasty quarterback. Do you guys agree with that? Or do you think that it's just a little bit recency bias and he's getting a little bit inflated?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, listen, Joe Burrow's super talented, number 1 overall pick, but he has his best friend playing wide receiver on the outside. T. Higgins is no schmuck on the other side. This offense is legit. Like I said, I just worry that he can't keep up this pace. And like we've seen it, like prior to the past 2 weeks, Joe Burrow has had to have the game of his life to even put up like 25 plus points in fantasy. He's really struggled to have those big games. So I don't know if he's up in that top 3 of dynasty quarterbacks, but he's definitely top 7 at worst. I think he's definitely moving up the ranks.
Yeah, I'd probably be okay missing out on Joe Burrow at the price he's going to be at in startup drafts, because I do think people will take him as high as 3 or 4. And to me, there's, obviously Mahomes. I still would rather have Herbert. Josh Allen, definitely. Just because with Josh Allen too, you get that rushing upside. Kyler, I think, with his rushing upside and stuff, and he's still producing even all his injuries and all the injuries to the team. Kyler still looked good. So once you get past those 4, I'd say, then it gets a little murkier, and to that point, I think you can start the conversation of if you want Joe Burrow. But like Jake was saying, like, it took him 2 games of his life to really be fantasy relevant. It's just a question of, I think him and Lamar are neck and neck for me as well. I'll get it down to like him, Lamar, Dak. I see Trey Lance is ranked that high. I have Trey Lance in our home league. I don't think I can put Trey Lance that high yet. I get the upside. Yeah, I get the upside is there potentially, but like we are seeing everyone else hitting this upside, and they're all young. Like it's not like they're significantly older than Trey Lance. Like they're all young. So to me, I would not be upset with you if you're putting Joe Burrow in your top 5, but if you have him in your top 3, I think now we're starting to really overinflate him.
Man, I still think I'd rather. Maybe it's a little bit team context because if I'm a hard rebuilder, I think that Joe Burrow is just a good quarterback to park your value in. Especially because like he's the type of dude. If you're starting to get on that uptrend of your rebuild, like he could be a nice QB1, and you're thinking like, okay, at worst he's going to be a low end QB1, high end QB2. Right? At worst, that's like a floor scenario at this point, with a mid QB1 as like what you're expecting out of him. If you need to park your value in a guy, yeah, he's a good quarterback to pick up. But I kind of agree with you guys. In startup drafts, I still think I'd rather have the upside of Lamar, even though there's the longevity questions. But I'm not gonna like flame anyone at this point for drafting Joe Burrow over Lamar. Especially if you're going for that what's that strategy called? The productive struggle. I think that like if you're going with a productive struggle and you're going to try and pick up some draft capital to do some trade downs, kind of do like a slight tank year 1 after your startup, and then look to pounce year 2 and on. That Joe Burrow could be a great little startup pick at the mid part of the first round if he's there.
Well, I know I just touched on Trey Lance, but why don't we move on to Trey Lance? Had a second start against the Texans. Look, I would say significantly better than he did against the Cardinals.
Okay.
I saw a lot of hype for him. He had good plays. He definitely had bad plays too. I don't know. When I look at him and when I look at Jimmy G, I just think he gives you so much more upside that like I don't know why you didn't start him like 4 weeks ago, because like they're similar quality players. Why not just get your rookie more game time? Why don't you give him more sessions on the actual field? Like I just don't think Jimmy G is winning you more games than Trey Lance. And if Trey Lance is the guy that you spent 3 first-round picks on, why are you not putting him on the field and giving him, slowing the game down for him? I don't see it.
I don't know. You're talking about a team that was losing at halftime to the Texans with Trey Lance
this is a
starting.
Texans team that just beat Justin Herbert, and it's not like they're not.
Yeah, but
terrible
I
team.
think that the 49ers are just a better team than the Chargers, especially because the Chargers defense was a little bit banged up last week. Davis Mills was thrown all over. I mean, the Chargers offense was not the problem with them against the Texans. You have a banged up Austin Eckler, you have a banged up defense. You had a couple of offensive players get injured. I'm pretty sure the week before as well against Kansas. They played Kansas City the week before, right? Or is that 2 weeks? Regardless, like I think that there's a little bit more excuses for Justin Herbert in that performance than there was for Trey Lance in this performance. I think that there's a reason that Jimmy G was playing. If Jimmy G's healthy, I think I would play him. To be completely honest, I like Trey Lance. I understand there's the upside, but I'm looking at this price, and I just think he's kind of overvalued. You could trade him 1-for-1 for Jalen Waddle, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp. Like, I'm sorry, if I could get Christian McCaffrey 1-for-1, if I could get Jalen Waddle, I'm not even the biggest Jalen Waddle guy, but I think I might do that 1-for-1.
Trey Lance for Jalen Waddle? I just think Trey Lance is probably. Are you saying you wouldn't do that, Jake?
I wouldn't trade Waddle for Trey Lance right now.
Oh, I wouldn't trade Lance for Waddle.
Because I battle.
Yeah, I think Lance is just that next guy of. He could give you that game-breaking upside that we see from Jalen Hurts, that we see from Lamar, that we see from all these players that can run. Like, he's just got that. Like, Jalen Hurts has been just statistically speaking, according to all the big analytics and stuff, Jalen Hurts has been an average to slightly above average quarterback. But because of his rushing upside, he's like he's been a QB1 like basically every game he's played this season. So I think that's what we could see with Trey Lance. It's just, and with Jimmy G, I think Jimmy G was just taking you however far Debo could take him. Like we saw games where Jimmy G didn't have Debo, specifically against Seattle, where this offense was just didn't do anything. Like I think at least with Trey Lance, like obviously if Debo's not in, it's going to hurt the offense. But I think this is still an offense that can push the pedal more because Trey Lance does like to throw it down the field more. He's not perfect with the football. Like he's not good at protecting the ball, but neither was Jimmy G. Like Jimmy G was turning it over too, and Jimmy G was like the leading quarterback in terms of turnover worthy plays that weren't turnovers. So I just think when we're talking about Trey Lance and you have the opportunity to get someone who's only like 21 or 22 years old at the potential upside that he is, I don't see why you would trade him for a receiver like Jalen Waddle, who is a wide receiver one, I guess. Yeah, like a lower end wide receiver one. Like if we're talking potential top 5 quarterback versus potential top 8 receiver, I'd much rather have the potential top 5 quarterback.
I just think I'm gonna go for your whole argument is he can be. When you could trade for guys that have already proven it. You're talking about the likes of Christian McCaffrey, the likes of Jalen Waddle, who's gonna set the rookie receptions record. Like you're putting in all these guys that have done it already. And he has started 2 games. And like I don't get me wrong, I love Trey Lance. I had him at QB2 heading into the rookie draft season. I like Trey Lance and I still think he has a lot of opportunity to succeed. But to get a guy that could just elevate your team regardless of position in like a top running back, a top receiver, for a guy that's played 2 games, I just don't see how you don't do that.
Yeah, Lappy's in the chat. Jimmy G's 8-5 and Lance is 1-2, with his only win coming against the Texans. In terms of like why is Jimmy G playing right now? I'm kind of just more on Jake's side. Like I don't think that Trey Lance is a bad player. I really don't think like if you're getting any 5 of these players, you're really upset or anything.
Frank, we're on a Dynasty podcast and we just used QB wins. We just use QB wins as a legitimate stat.
You're right. But I'm in terms of why
also Trey Lance has only had 2
playing
starts
right now.
Well, that's exactly what I said. He's only had 2 starts, and yes, I still love him.
But we're saying
a lot
he's
of
1 and 2.
That...
He's 1 and 1.
But my biggest problem is that I kind of like rushing upside when it's underpriced to me, right? Lamar in the rookie draft was going late first, and even aside from the year that Lamar was the consensus 102 in startups, like last year, or I guess this year, Lamar was like that 6th QB off the board, right? He's kind of that de facto 5 or 6 outside of the top 5. And basically outside of Kyler Murray, all the best running quarterback, or Kyler Murray and Cam Newton, all the best running quarterbacks, like Jalen Hurts, yeah, great player. The guy was barely worth a 1st round pick when he was a consensus QB1 in terms of the fantasy rankings in the middle of the year. And it kind of took some of these recent Eagles winning performances and him starting to play better for him to be, okay, now we're ready to call him a easy 1st round pick type of quarterback. So I'm kind of more with Jake. I think Trey Lance is good. I just rather have the other players that I just mentioned. Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. Deebo Samuel, I think I might move for Trey Lance, to be honest. And maybe Cooper Kupp just because of the age. But Waddle and CMC, I think I'd rather have over Lance at this point.
I mean, I like Waddle, but and we're talking like it's not baked in. I mean, it is baked in to some extent. I think the risk that we're talking about, because if Trey Lance
he's already a top 10 dynasty quarterback. Like, but that price is so high already. Like in best case scenario, what does he move up to? Like quarterback 6, 7,
3, 2 or 3. If Trey Lance has
Mahomes and Josh Allen aren't going anywhere anytime soon. They're going to be supplanted at the top of the quarterback rankings for the next minimum 3 years.
So Trey Lance has had he played a half against Seattle, and then he played the 2 starts, right? So that's 20. He had 3 games, 2.5 games. He rushed the ball 28 times. That's over 10 rushes a game. That's an additional.
Quick math there, bud.
Yeah. Well, with the 2.5 and the, quick, it's pretty easy math. But anyway, he's also getting like he had in his just limited game. Thanks. he had like 160 rushing yards in 2.5 games. Like we're talking about Lamar level rushing and passing. Like I feel like if we were a Dynasty podcast at the time Lamar was playing, we'd be having this exact same conversation about Lamar. And I just think Trey Lance, yeah, he's a little more reckless than what Lamar does, but he's a physical guy. It's not like he's getting beat down by all these linemen and everything. I don't know. To me, I just think it's the same conversation, except Trey Lance has even better draft capital. And there's not easy ways to replace Trey Lance for the 49ers if he's not good.
All right, that's fair. All right, let's move on. Anyone got anything else to say?
Moving on. Oh my God! Now I have to defend another quarterback back to back. Well, we already kind of did this last week, but Baker was just terrible against the Steelers. He got sacked like 9 times. I don't understand why the Browns just did not turn to Nick Chubb that entire game. I mean, I get that you're out of the playoffs and everything, so maybe just don't run Chubb into the ground. But
there was a point in this game where Baker had 10 incompletions in a row, and Nick Chubb was standing on the sidelines with a coat. What is going on?
You want to know what this was?
Kevin Stefanski should have been fired on the fucking spot. You have a top running back. Your quarterback is trash. The Steelers have a bottom 5 run defense in the league. What are you doing?
You want to know what they were doing? I know exactly what the scenario was because I've seen it before. This is Ned Stark in King's Landing after Jamie Lannister or the Lannisters stuck the freaking pole through his knee. He's got no friends over there. Dude, I think that they were hanging him out to dry for a couple reasons. A, I think they were trying to test Baker to see like, oh, can you carry us against Pittsburgh? And B, dude, I think that they may have just been like kind of throwing him out there for reason A, and then reason B being, hey, if he plays like shit, we have some leverage in this contract negotiation. Like, I think that they were kind of going out there and being like, hey, dude, are you a franchise quarterback? Are you going to go out here? Because we have nothing to lose, right? We're already mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. Like, I think that organization was saying to Baker, hey, we don't care if you're playing hurt. It's time right here, right now to prove if you're worth giving this big extension to and all that and trying to prove if you're a franchise quarterback. And the dude is out there with his walking stick like Ned Stark was out there in King's Landing. And Kevin Stefanski sentenced him to the freaking chopping block.
I have a hard time defending that, but all right. I just don't understand it. Like,
dude, what other reason? You're a run-first team and you're running back. The Steelers have the worst run defense. He's averaging over 6 yards a carry, and the guy's got a jacket on the whole game. They're playing Dearness fucking Johnson. And they're throwing every play. Like, dude, they were freaking throwing Baker out there to dry. And like, even I don't know, it was a fucking mess. It was a fucking mess. I think it was because they wanted to see, hey, Baker, can you go out there and carry us?
I don't know. Tim in the chat saying Chubb had a reported rib injury. I don't buy it. He looked fine. His helmet was on. He could have come back in that game.
I kind of see what Frank's saying. I don't understand what we're talking about before the pod too. I don't understand why like this Browns offensive line, which I thought we all understood was like a above average offensive line. I thought just look like did not do Baker any favors. Like they did not help Baker out. They didn't keep their hands inside and were like punching the defensive linemen when they were raising their hands to bat the ball, because that's what you're trained to do. Like you just want to knock the wind out of someone if they ever give you their chest to they weren't doing any of that. They were letting people just run straight by him at Baker. You could see Baker's frustration at the end of the game when he like ripped off a long run, and instead of like stepping out of bounds, which he could have easily done at any point, he lowered his injured shoulder into a Steelers line secondary player. Like I don't know. I think part of it, he was hung out to dry. To contract negotiations should certainly be in the Browns' favor. They should have leverage. But if the Browns don't go with Baker, who will they go with? Like,
well, they picked up his 1-year extension, but I think that they just wanted to see, like, do you have what it takes to really be the guy? Be the guy. And he's going to get a chance next year, right? Because, like, they just don't have the ability to move around, really. But I think that in the back of their minds now, they know, hey, we don't have a franchise quarterback. We have a guy that's still a question mark. And that's going to be on their mind now with the decisions that they make going forward. They may not go all in against the cap with a Baker Mayfield-led offense. They may maybe trade back, or maybe more willing to trade back to acquire more picks just in case they need ammunition in the 2023 or 2024 draft or something, to go up and get a potential quarterback, or kind of with the cap space go out there and get one of these top quarterbacks. Or maybe they will be in conversation to get one of the top quarterbacks. Who knows? I think that they'd have a tough time getting them, but
we had this discussion last week too, though. I don't think like these quarterbacks are better than Baker.
Well, I was thinking more like Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, kind of like not this. Because I agree with you. I don't think that they would draft a quarterback either, unless maybe one completely fell into their lap that they really liked.
If you're Russell Wilson or Deshaun or Aaron Rodgers, do you really want to go Cleveland?
No.
Is that where you want to end up? And like, let's give Baker some credit. Like, I know he had OBJ, but other than that, you have to deal with an aging Jarvis Landry and then Anthony Schwartz and Donovan Peoples-Jones. It's not like he's got that elite receiving core. Like, let's call it what it is. This team is a run-first team. They're built as a run-first team. They have one of the top running backs in the league. They should run the ball, but that's not what they did. And it showed why.
Lappy said if any franchise quarterback is out there hanging their quarterback out to dry for contract leverage to type to run team, I don't necessarily. I think my argument came off a little bit wrong. It's like they were asking Baker Mayfield, be a franchise quarterback, be the Joe Burrow of this team. Go out there and win us a football game against a division rival. And because he was unable to do that, now if he's going out there and asking for a mega extension, it's like, well, we have a game we can point to and say, hey, we asked you to be a franchise quarterback in Pittsburgh, 7-8. This could have been a game, and they were expecting this to be a game at the beginning of the season where this is basically playoffs on the line. And not only did you come up short, you came up super short. You looked horrible. So, all right, let's start going to more of the dynasty perspective, though, because I imagine his price on Keep Trade Cut has just hit the fucking shitter.
I think it's an early second from what I saw on Twitter recently. Yeah. From what I saw on Twitter, it's an early second.
So it's almost like a mini panic meter segment. JT, we're probably know that you're not going to panic. I guess it's up to me and Jake then. Jake, I'll throw it to you first. Is this a panic meter level performance? Are you easy selling for the early second and cutting ties?
Yes. We've done our mocks for this upcoming draft. If I can get one of those top picks in the second round, I think I do it. I think a lot of those players have a lot of high-end upside, and I would just rather go for that and re-roll. And even if you could probably land the likes of like a Desmond Ridder in the beginning of the second round. And if
Desmond Ridder is not better than Baker Mayfield.
Listen,
like 0% Desmond Ridder is better than Baker Mayfield. I am so confident on that. Okay. I'm more confident than Kadarius Toney being bad than I am. Like, I'm more confident in Desmond Ridder not being better than Baker than I am Kadarius Toney being bad.
The player named is not the point. Even like we saw on the Dynasty nerds, their ADP for all these guys, Sam Howell and
Sam
they were
Howell,
all late for. They were all late first. If they fall to the beginning of the second very easily, based on just like other position players rising, like you could easily scoop a guy that is a first round quarterback, maybe an early second quarterback in that beginning of the second round. And I think that's something I'd rather do. Or I can go with the high end. You could probably get Kyron Williams, George Pickens. There's maybe Jamison Williams. There's so many guys in the beginning of this first round that I would just rather have than Baker Mayfield right now, who's looked so bad that back end of this season. I know he's hurt, and I know Nick Chubb's missed time, Kareem Hunt's missed time. They cut Odell. Like they've had a lot going on, but that does not excuse how he's played. He's just played absolutely atrocious.
I think I'm with JT here, though. I think that I'm
you.
holding Baker Mayfield because, dude, I think that we've seen a similar thing with a worse quarterback in Jared Goff. Jared Goff is a guy that on a better roster played pretty trash, right, and was traded. But we saw at the beginning of the season, you might have been able to get a late first round pick for Jared Goff. I think on Keep Trade Cut, he was worth more than that 2022 late first. And I think that there were times post Rams, and even when he was still on the Rams, where you could trade him for that first. Baker Mayfield, he is priced around Alexander Madison, Dalton Schultz, James Conner, Robert Woods. I think
That's
realistically,
so
in leagues, he's worth a little bit more than that. In these super flex leagues, I think he's getting too much hate on Keep Trade Cut right now. I would not take this 2,900 rating at face value. I think he's a little bit higher than that in most leagues. But I think that if you hold, the diamond hands would be rewarded. We've seen it before. If there's a quarterback that's going to turn it around, it's one with early first round draft capital. We've seen the flashes from Baker before, specifically last season, where second half of last season, he was playing phenomenally, right? He was a top 5 quarterback, statistically speaking, at the back end of last year, leading the Browns to their first playoff win in a long ass time. Like first playoff appearance, let alone playoff win.
Yeah.
I think that if a panic sell here is a bad move, I would much rather diamond hands this scenario. He's just an inconsistent quarterback. That's just what he is. I would wait to get off the roller coaster when we start going back up.
The torn labrum just is not getting enough play either, where it's like, just try and throw a ball without this shoulder. I get that, it's not your throwing shoulder. If it's your throwing shoulder, you'd probably be out for the season. But yeah, you use both your arms to throw a ball. Like you use your upper body to throw a ball. Like it's not, maybe it's not hindering him, like his throwing motion, but it can't be comfortable. And you gotta add in, he has the sling on top of that. Like, I don't know. You give me a healthy Baker Mayfield, I think this season a much different story. Then I have Tua in the 3rd and 20 league, right? And I have Baker in our home league. If you're asking me which one I like their future outlook on, it's a toss-up. And I think Tua is being valued a lot more than Baker right now. You put a healthy Baker on the Dolphins, I think the Dolphins are in the playoffs this season. And not only that, I think they're contending for the AFC East position. Like I just think Baker offers much more. Like he can push the ball down the field much more than a player like Tua. Like Tua is just that guy that he's going to play conservative. He's not going to turn the ball over as much, but he's not going to let a deep one go, while Baker will do the opposite. And to me, I'd rather just roll the dice on Baker. Because if Baker hits and Baker comes back healthy and has a good season next year, what's Baker's value? It's probably like a mid first.
Yeah, I think like if he comes back, you'll be able to get a late first for him.
I think if he comes back and he's healthy and he has a good season, that's a mid first.
Well, see, the other thing too, the last point is that I think that if it doesn't work out in Cleveland, he'll get another shot somewhere else because you will have seen it before. Just because he's shown the flashes before, there's going to be a coach thinking, fucking Sam Darnold got another shot. And Baker showed a lot more than Sam Darnold.
He's significantly better than Sam
Darnold. So
Darnold.
I think that if it doesn't work out in Cleveland, they don't pick up his extension, he's going to get another shot. And I just think that there's going to be a better sell window than now and this offseason.
Fair. All right. Frank, on to your guy, Zach Wilson.
Dude, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just going to come out here and say I think that Zach Wilson's easily the most underpriced elite quarterback in the NFL right now. Like
Elite's
the guy,
a strong word.
dude. I've been watching all these Jets games recently. I went back and I watched all his throws from all the YouTube videos and whatnot. Like Zach Wilson's been playing a lot better, and I feel like no one is giving him credit for. Like he's not going to necessarily. He hasn't been lighting up the stat sheet, but then again, his best receiver is easily Braxton fucking Berrios. Like he's throwing the Jets easily lead the league in drops, right? It's a clown fiesta of receivers. This is a team that Sam Darnold couldn't score 3 points with, that Zach Wilson's actually going out here and improving under. And dude, like last week against the Bucks, the guy was slinging the pill. He had a bunch of really sick plays. Like, and he's still, I mean, his value's been going up, but I still think that his value is way under what it needs to be. Or what it should be. So I just kind of want to come out there and say that. Fucking buy. Hammer the buy.
Joe Herbert's in the chat saying a first for Mayfield. We didn't say he's worth a first right now. We say if he comes back healthy and plays and he has a solid season next year, he'll certainly be worth it first. Because you got to remember, he's still a young quarterback who had a good season. We saw Sam Darnold, after 2 or 3 good games on the Panthers, get traded for more than a first. Like
Jared
Baker's
Goff
significantly
Jared
better.
Goff the first 3 weeks of the season when he was a statistical top 12 QB.
I'm pretty sure Joe Herbert was in the chat a couple weeks ago saying he's not trading Tyler Huntley for less than a first, which was absurd. That's fantasy football.
Salty out here.
We're getting crazy in the chat if we're thinking Tyler Huntley is a first, and we think, all right, whatever. Moving on. Zach Wilson.
What are you giving? Wait, hold on. What are you giving up for Wilson? That's a good question because his price has been all over the place. In our rebuild league, now this is kind of at the bottom case for Zach Wilson. We gave up James Conner, Odell, and
Cam Newton.
And Cam Newton, when Cam Newton just got picked up for Zach Wilson, and we were very happy with that deal. To be completely honest, now I might sound like a crackhead. I would give up a top 5 pick in this rookie draft probably for Zach Wilson. Like if I have picked 104 or 105, I think I would be. And the thing is, I don't even think you have to give up that. I think you can get something back if the owner is panicking on Zach Wilson. Now that being said, I think it's just a better move to try and trade a similarly priced player instead of going the draft pick route for Zach Wilson, because the people that drafted him are going to be like, oh, well, I drafted him at 107. Like I want a 107 or this is a weaker rookie class. I want a 104. Like I think that you could go out there. Let me see what similarly priced like receivers are around him. Amon-Ra, Mike Evans, and Travis Etienne are apparently around him. Like
I'd easily trade Amon-Ra for Zach Wilson. I'm not even a Zach Wilson guy.
Like I would trade a Mike Evans, Keenan Allen for Zach Wilson pretty easily. Look, like if you could pull that off.
I'm not a Zach Wilson guy, right? I've consistently been the lowest guy on Zach Wilson on this podcast. But I just, when we look at this year's quarterback class and you're trying to fix your quarterback position, like I don't think Matt Corral or Sam Howell or any of the other guys are significantly better than Zach Wilson, if they even are. Like I think Zach Wilson would easily be in the conversation of the top quarterback in this class. Kenny Pickett too. I'm just not a Kenny Pickett guy, but so yeah, I'd give up.
Yeah, I'll name some
in this
more
class.
Amon-Ra, Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, AJ Dillon.
All those you should give up for Zach Wilson.
The only one I'd struggle with is Mike Evans, but the others, yeah, the others I'm giving up.
Yeah, I think that trade might look annoying at first, especially if Brady comes back and Mike Evans is like pulls out another top 12 season. But I think long term that's a pretty decent move. Mac Jones for Zach Wilson plus what?
That's an interesting one.
I mean, to be completely honest, I would take Zach Wilson probably over Mac Jones, just standardly. Yes. And I was high on both of those dudes coming out of the rookie draft. Like, I mean, I wonder what the consensus difference is between the two of them.
So according to Keep Trade Cut, Mac Jones is equal to Zach Wilson plus Brevin Jordan, which
so like basically nothing. So maybe I would try to look for like a third or like a third for like a 3-for-2 swap, like trying to get that second for third swap in your favor. Maybe you could try something like that. Um, maybe you just try to upgrade for a player like Mac Jones and I don't know, maybe you try to pick up like a Juju in that deal and you try to get Juju for a pretty fair price, something like that, or a Corey Davis, one of those underpriced receivers for a good draft pick if the guy's looking to get rid of Wilson. I think the one problem with Zach Wilson is that you're going to have the people like me, the crackheads, who are like, oh, Zach Wilson's a top 10 quarterback. And if you have one of those guys in your league, it's going to be tough to trade for him because I ain't trading Zach Wilson for cheap. I'll tell you that right now. And I have him in a bunch of leagues. But just coming from what we got for him in our rebuild league, I do think it's possible.
On a points per game basis in this year, Mac Jones was QB 28, while Zach Wilson was quarterback 36 on points. Now, one of those games includes the game where Mac Jones passed it for 3 times, which isn't exactly fair. But on a points per game basis, it's like 2 points per game or 1.5 points per game. I don't know. I mean, I'm a Patriots fan. I like Mac Jones, but I don't think Zach Wilson has played like as bad as people would perceive Zach Wilson played.
I mean, there's still more improvement that you need to see happen, but dude, that offense is a shit show, and they drop a ton of passes. That those receivers can't catch a damn ball. You know, because everyone's first thing against him is the damn completion percentage. But it's like, dude, I would beg to say that they have probably dropped 10% of his passes.
That's a lot.
I'd like to see the red zone efficiency too, because I have no idea what it was, but like, you can't convince me that there's any Jets player that is significantly like any I don't know what words I'm trying to say here, but any player on the Jets in the red zone was as efficient or even close to efficient as like Hunter Henry for Mac Jones, where it's like you have, and you don't have the run game with Damian Harris that the Patriots had. Like Mac Jones was able to manufacture points through the red zone, specifically Hunter Henry, where you're just not getting that with Zach Wilson because the Jets offense is just significantly worse, which is saying a lot because the Patriots offense, like the weapons are not anything special.
All right. Yeah, I just think that Zach Wilson's ceiling is higher than Mac Jones. Like Mac Jones is stable. He's a good player. I like Mac Jones a lot. I was really high on him this year. It's just, dude, I'm taking Wilson easily. Especially because we've seen recently Zach Wilson has been more involved in trying to get his legs involved, especially against man coverage you've seen, which has definitely helped his fantasy games. Like, dude, in 5 games, he has 4 rushing touchdowns. So, like, and you saw last week, like, he's just finally starting to put it together, and it seems to be not priced in to me. Maybe it is in some leagues, and it probably is, but I would test the waters at least. All right, we gotta move on. I'm holding us up too much.
All right. Okay. So selling the good players at the tier that they're like selling.
You want me to explain
good players for? Yeah, you probably do a better job than me.
All right. So I came up with this segment I was thinking of because I see on Twitter all the time. Everyone's like, "Oh, well, Cooper Kupp is one of the best sell highs right now," and I was kind of thinking from the perspective that I love Cooper Kupp. A couple years ago, he was one of my favorite startup picks, and I have him in a couple leagues, which has panned out. But in terms of selling Cooper Kupp, I really don't think there are many managers that are willing to pay that top 5 price for Cooper Kupp right now. I think that if you were to sell Cooper Kupp, unless he's caught in the Mixon paradox where the owners are high and the buyers are low, you're going to have to sell him for a mid-tier wide receiver 1 price. So I kind of wanted to go through a bunch of players, and like, you know, Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams, I think are 2 very similarly priced wide receiver assets in a similar range. Would you sell these guys for that mid-tier wide receiver 1 price? Are you smash buying them for this mid-tier wide receiver 1 price? What is the mid-tier wide receiver 1 price? Who wants to take it?
We talked about before, specifically the receivers, but to me, these guys are just almost always a sell because receivers are, in my opinion, much different than most other positions where you can move down, gain a first round pick, and still have similar value. I get Cooper Cup was like a game breaking wide receiver this year, so Cooper Cup is kind of the outlier in terms of that. But we saw in our 3rd and 20 league, the person who I'm, Captain D's, tried trading him the entire season and just could not get what he thought was fair value for Cooper Cup. To me, I think Cooper Cup, yeah, he might have 1 or 2 more like fantastic years. But if I could trade Cooper Cup and try and think of what on top of Cooper Cup would be fair value for like Cooper Cup for DJ Moore, right? What do you guys think on top of DJ Moore you could get for trading Cooper Cup?
Not a whole lot.
Right, but even that, not a whole lot, I think I'd consider taking. Because it's just like DJ Moore was
like if you're trying to go for a player like DJ Moore, who's a guy that's had 1,000 yards multiple times, is still under the age of 25. Like if you're trying to trade Cooper Cup for that, you're not going to get a whole lot on top of it. You might feel like it after the season he had. He obviously looks like he's going to win the receiving triple crown, yards, touchdowns, receptions. Like he's gonna do that this year, and it's a historic season. And don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic player. But at the age of 28, and you're trying to move to a guy that's a multiple year 1,000-yard 25-year-old 26-year-old whatever DJ Moore is, like you are not going to pick up a whole lot of additional assets on top of that because you're going to get the division. That even is even better. Like you're not going to pick up nearly anything. Think you'd be hard pressed.
Keep trade cuts telling me I could get Brandon Cooks on top of DJ Moore, which is something I would do if possible, but I don't know.
Sure, if you could pick up an aging player like Brandon Cooks as well, who's going to be productive for the next 2 years, 3 years, sure, I would do that. I don't think that's a bad add on top of DJ Moore, but the problem is, like Frank said, it's the Mixon paradox here, where the people that have Cooper Cup are just seeing these crazy numbers he put up the whole season, and then you're like, well, I can get DJ Moore and Brandon Cooks, and they're like, I don't think so. So I think it's going to be one of those things that it's really tough to come to a deal here unless the person that's trading away Cooper Cup is really willing to settle in the middle somewhere.
See, my opinion after hearing you guys talk for a little bit, because I have Cooper Cup in definitely one league. I may have him in 2. I don't really want to trade him. Mainly because I'm a contender, so I feel like it doesn't really make sense for me to trade him. It's like, what am I going to get? I feel like if I'm going for value, it's just worth holding on to him. But hearing you guys talk, I feel like if I were to trade him, I would want to package Cooper Cup with a first-round pick or something to try and get one of the premium assets in Superflex leagues. I would want to pack and do a consensus overpay and get myself one of the top quarterbacks in the league, or what I think is the top running back in the league, or the top receiver in the league, or Kyle Pitts. I think that that's the only real way I would want to do that. And I would be glad to overpay for someone I think it's worth overpaying for.
Do you think you could trade Cooper Cupp and your contender first? Let's assume it's pick 110 this year for Kyle Pitts. Cooper Cup and 110 for Kyle Pitts.
I don't think so. I think I'd have to add more, but what if I added on a second-round pick? A first, a second, and Cooper Cup. You don't think?
All right, Jake, you'll be our guy. We'll do the trade right now. Frank's got Cooper Cup. He's got pick 110. He's got a few other draft picks. How much more does he have to add on to get Kyle Pitts from you?
I want another first. I want another first.
So you want Cooper Cup 110 in the 2023 mid to late.
I mean, if you start creeping up into the 105, 106 range on that pick, then you could talk about throwing in a second. Or, I mean, I think the likelihood is you'll probably have to throw in another player if you rather than just picks here. If you're a contender, just to do something like that, because your picks are going to be likely later in the draft. So it's going to be tough to put together a package that both sides are going to want to agree to, because the guy that's trading away the young, shiny asset is going to say, well, your pick's late. I don't want to do that.
I would rather throw in another player than start throwing in draft picks, especially if I'm a contender, because my contender 2023 first is going to be, I think, heavily undervalued.
That yeah,
I agree. I agree with that.
I wholeheartedly agree with that point. I think what do you like? Kyle Pitts is someone I would like 100% target if I was giving up Cooper Kupp in the first, but like you are going to have to add on more stuff to that, and it's just at what point is it just worth keeping Cooper Kupp? And if we're talking like what kind of quality player would we be talking that you think you'd be willing to give up on top of Cooper Kupp and the first for Kyle Pitts?
That's what I was
thinking. A player. Give me a player that.
Well, see, it's annoying because I know you guys love Kyle Pitts. So you're gonna have to make it flashy. What about like Judy and a second? JT wouldn't accept that. I mean, we're starting to get into it. But the thing is that I wouldn't just pigeonhole myself into just Kyle Pitts. Like I would go for just all these guys in this tier, right? Like
this is where the issue is that we're talking about, right? Because this is what Keep Trade Cut says versus reality. I think it's very different in terms of, according to Keep Trade Cut, you could trade Cooper Kupp in 2022 late first for Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Najee Harris, Kyle Pitts.
No, you can't.
In reality, I don't think you could trade it. Like, I don't think you could trade for any of those players.
They changed the algorithm not too long ago with this value adjustment on Keep Trade Cup to make it a Keep Trade Cut, so that it's easier for you to trade higher tier but not the highest tier assets for the highest tier assets, which is a change that it was received well, but I didn't really agree with. I think it was more so for like going from when DJ Moore was valued as like a top 5 receiver during the league, like going from T. Higgins, who was apparently going down. I don't really think many of the T. Higgins managers were saying he was down, but like, let's just take the Keep Trade Cut values as if they were fact. If you were to do T. Higgins for DJ Moore at the top 5 value, okay, I think it makes sense there. But in this scenario where we have a Cooper Kupp for a Kyle Pitts, I agree with you guys. I don't think this is reality here. Saying I could give up Cooper Kupp and DJ Chark as a fair trade for Kyle Pitts, no fucking shot. But like I think Lamar Jackson could be a pretty decent target, because Lamar Jackson, because he has the longevity fears, is going to be probably priced less than Kyle Pitts. Maybe is he? Is that right?
No,
am I just talking out of my ass here?
I think they're probably pretty similarly valued, just because one's a quarterback.
Let's play a quick game, right? I'm just going to run down this list. I'm going to run down this list.
Lamar Jackson is worth a lot more than Kyle Pitts, apparently. That surprised me a little bit.
Oh, all right. I'm going to run down this list, and you guys are going to tell me stop when you think a deal can be made. You have Cooper Kupp, and you have pick 110 in this draft. All right. Which of these players that I'm just going to start rambling off, you tell me stop, gets the deal done. So we got DeAndre Swift, CeeDee Lamb, Javonte Williams, AJ Brown.
Wait. I'm confused at what's happening.
I'm confused. Oh, you're saying how low can we go?
Yeah. How much lower? How much further down?
Okay.
Any of those?
I was gonna say like,
yeah, it's DeAndre Swift. See ya, bud.
Yeah, like I was very confused. Okay, go on.
So yeah, all right. So there's Swift, CeeDee Lamb, Javonte Williams, AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill. I think you could get Tyreek Hill for Kupp plus. No,
I think so? You might be able to get like all those guys.
Oh, you're saying
other than Swift? I think Swift has like a cult following where it's like I don't think you get him. Javonte, you'd have a tough time. But I think those.
You think wide receivers you can? You think receivers you can? Running backs you can't? Yeah, I mean,
especially to a contender, dude. Like when draft type is in full swing and there's potentially a Jameson Williams on the board at 110 or whoever the fuck, a David Bell. Someone, there's going to be a damn good player there at 110 that's not being like 110 right now is not worth 110 in 3 months, right? Once that premium is added to these picks, dude, I don't know, man. I think that you could get it done for some of these players, for at least one of them.
We've talked about on previous episode, but I think it's obviously if I'm doing this, I would definitely trade Cooper Kupp and a first for like AJ Brown. because I just think the longevity that you're getting, like I don't normally.
AJ Brown's injury history scares the living shit
See,
out of
the thing
me.
is, though, is that when you're trading Cooper Kupp, it's going to be a value that you have to be losing on paper right now. Because no one wants,
Yeah,
not that no one wants to trade Cooper Kupp, no one wants to trade their sexy, flashy, first round pick valued young asset for Cooper Kupp. You have to make the deal good enough to where a person is like, oh my God, I'm getting the triple crown receiver and this. Yeah, I have to take that. And it's kind of JT. Remember a couple years ago when you traded for Patrick Mahomes, where it's like you have to just start stacking guys. You have to, and the
yes.
deal just has to be like, holy shit, I'm getting such a good deal. But at the end of the day, you are getting such a premium asset that it's worth it. So you're gonna have to overpay, but you're gonna have to sack up and get the dude that you like. Yeah, you're gonna have to get the dude that's like, this guy is so good, I don't give a fuck. And as long as he doesn't start diddling masseuses, you're fine.
All right, well,
All right,
we hope Cup wouldn't be that. Yeah, I mean, the same could be said about any of these guys on this list, right? Devontae Adams, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, Aaron Rodgers, Travis Kelsey, Mike Evans.
The one thing I will say with all of these guys is it's kind of the rule that I live by and I try to do. I've gotten screwed over with it a couple times, but for the most part, trade too early rather than too late. I know it sucks when you say, oh, Dalvin Cook coming off last year, like he had a fantastic season, top 2. Like I want to hold on to him, but like that was probably Dalvin's peak was after last season, after he had that incredible season. This year he was more down, more injuries. Another year older as a running back. It's just a lot of things, and I think that's the same with the guys like Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, and it's just if you can get the value now, I don't want to wait because especially these aging guys that have been very successful in the past, you don't want to wait too late where their value starts to come down off on the other side of their career. Like I've waited too late on Julio, and now he's worth absolutely pretty much nothing. I can't get a 3rd round pick right now for Julio if I wanted to. Like it's an absolute, it's insane. So I always try to say, sell too early rather than too late.
Yeah, just reminding you guys who's the lowest on Dalvin Cook this offseason.
I feel like it might have been me.
Okay, well then I was right there with you. We were holding hands. That meme with the two buff guys locking arms.
Yeah. I think something that's not being touched upon enough either is I get that he has Matthew Stafford, so obviously his numbers were likely to go up. But we're talking like, and it's the same issue with like the Devontae Adams and the Travis Kelce's and everything. Touchdowns are just not a sticky stat. And Cooper Kupp has 15 touchdowns this season on 16 games. He's averaging basically a touchdown per game. And that's just, statistically speaking, that's almost certainly not going to happen again this year. And so while he might not have a record-breaking season, I get that he can still be, a top 5 wide receiver. But now we're talking about 29-year-old Cooper Kupp, who's now no longer wide receiver 1. He's wide receiver 6. And then, how many years does he have ahead of him? We're looking at exactly what D-Hop was this year, where you couldn't even trade D-Hop for 105 or 106. And, now it's even worse. Or Michael Thomas. It's, ask the Michael Thomas or D-Hop rosters this year if they feel feel like they should have traded him in the offseason.
Okay, here's what scares me. Yes. Here's what scares me about Cooper Kupp compared to, because Michael Thomas, the reason Michael Thomas's value went down is not because he's not talented, it's because he's a lunatic at this point. To a certain extent, he's not an Antonio Brown level lunatic.
Most good wide receivers have to.
The guy was going nuts. The guy was like getting fights in practice and shit, and the injury, the way that either he or the team handled the injury, something went wrong there. Whether that's on him or the team, I have no idea. But the thing that scares me about Cooper Kupp is almost the reason why he's good. And it's like you're seeing the way that teams are using. It looks like McVay, I don't think he invented it, but he's definitely popularized the shit out of it, is these damn option routes have been taking the NFL by storm. And if you look at it, every team is copying what McVay has done. It's the copycat league. And everyone, like you've seen it with the Raiders and Hunter Renfrow, the Vikings and Justin Jefferson are doing the same shit, right? Devontae Adams and the Packers. Everyone is doing, except for the Steelers, everyone is doing the freaking option routes with these number one receivers. They're lining them up in the slot. They'll even line them up. They'll line them up as a running back. They're basically still in the slot. They're just lined up as a running back, and they're able to. Hey, you read the defense. These are smart guys, and wherever you have leverage, you go. And they're picking defenses apart. But these defensive coordinators, given an offseason,
they're going to catch up.
What's the one thing they're going to be game planning for all off season? They're going to be trying to find ways to take away these option routes in the slot. That's going to be their number one priority this offseason. This is the thing that is killing our defense. Aside from we have a Jamar Chase that's mossing our fucking corner, this is the number one thing that is killing us. So how are we going to stop? That's what scares me about Cooper Kupp. Is almost the thing that has made him great is that what happens when the defenses get the edge? Then what happens to him? Like, I think he'll still be a good player, but clearly the offenses are a step ahead of the defenses right now in this aspect of gameplay.
Yeah.
All right, we gotta move on to these other guys. So like
just quickly before go on, never mind.
Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, kind of like a little bit all over the place, but I think that like these are kind of like the lower mid-tier. I think Austin Eckler is probably the crowning jewel of these three right now with age and receiving and whatnot. I think that he would demand the highest price, but you could still get a pretty decent price for Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook. What do you think the move is for these guys? Ship them? Done? See ya?
Yep.
All three?
Yep.
What are you looking for?
Yeah, I'd probably trade all three.
Personally, you could, similar to Cooper Kupp, I'm a fan of kind of trading up here. I mean, these guys are all at one point top, 5 dynasty running backs. I think if you really wanted to, you could throw a late first round pick on top of these guys, and it'll really, really entice someone to trade away the likes of a DeAndre Swift or someone like that. And I think you could do that.
My issue is even DeAndre Swift, who I was, super high on and super confident about, like other than Jonathan Taylor, I'm not confident in. And I guess are we still doing the running back draft today? We're doing the running back draft today. We'll touch on it. But I'm just not confident in like any of these top guys other than Jonathan Taylor. I think we could see huge shakeups. Like I'm talking drastic shakeups in the next 1 to 2 years in terms of who the top 10 running backs are. Where
I agree. I mean, I think this year you have 2 running backs coming in that are very good, in Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller, and then the following year is a loaded running back class with Bijan Robinson and Tank Bigsby and a whole lot of other guys in that class. So in the next 2 years, I think we do see a shift at the top end of this running back position. And I kind of think we even saw it starting really last year with, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, obviously Jonathan Taylor, and continue this year with Najee Harris and Javonte Williams, because all those guys are now, bearing injuries to J.K. Dobbins and Akers. They're all basically RB1 dynasty running back ones at this point. So I think the running back position as a whole turns over very quickly. And just when you have a guy like Cook and Henry and Eckler, who have been at the top now for 2, 3, 4 years almost, it's time to say, okay, I'm moving on, and the next tier will come in. Even if you just get, a first round pick in 2023, I think that's not a bad move, because you could get a running back in that class that's just going to basically step in and hopefully replace who you traded away.
Well, I think with Dalvin Cook, man, his value is a little bit higher on keep, trade, cut than I expected it to be. I think with Dalvin Cook and Austin Eckler, I would be willing to break them down into multiple pieces. And I think that would be the move that I would try for them if you can pull it off. So, like, if I could get... I'm trying to find
a first plus? Like, what are you looking for?
Well, yeah, if I could get Hollywood in a first, or Mike Evans in a first, or Keenan Allen in a first, or Amari Cooper in a first, I think that might be a move that I would heavily consider. And I think That I don't know how you guys think that's a realistic move that could happen.
I think if
Let
you're
me see what
going
the
away, I think those are like pretty realistic trades that could happen. But if you're trading away one of those guys, I think you'll probably want to. It's going to be tough just because if you're trading away running back of that caliber, there's not many of them, even at their age. So you're going to want one back. And I think if you're getting, especially a late pick or even mid to late pick in this year's draft, you're just not going to find a running back to replace him. So owners are going to be hesitant to do that. And I don't think they're going to want to wait and take a 2023 first to wait and get that running back.
Okay, yeah. Well, according to Keep Trade Cut, the side that I would want is winning by an unfair amount. So, I mean, it's relatively marginal, but so yeah, I guess you wouldn't be able to pull that off. So we're back to the drawing board. What would we look to get for these guys?
If you went in the opposite direction, right? Do you think Derrick Henry plus pick 107, 108 gets you the likes of a Dak?
Ooh. Ooh. I don't know.
I think he definitely could. The thing is with Derrick Henry right now is that everyone still has in the back of their mind that this guy was fucking nuts.
All
Like
right,
you'll
well,
have contenders
make it
that will
Dalvin
want to
Cook.
trade for Derrick Henry.
Does Dalvin Cook plus 107 or 108 get you Dak?
Anyone in the chat, what are you thinking? Let's get a chat opinion.
They're kind of on a delay, so we'll probably have to vamp for a little bit here.
Right.
But yeah, to me, when we're talking about these kind of players, 107, 108 plus a Derrick Henry, if I'm looking to, like you were saying earlier, park value, I think that's the best way to do it. Is just give up for a quarterback. Then, off season comes around, a team needs a quarterback. You move Dak Prescott for a young quarterback plus a first, or a young running back plus a first. Like, I think that's the
Well, yeah,
easier way
that
to
was
do
the
it.
other thing I was going to consider is there any consideration into just trying to downgrade a back and making up the value in draft capital? Whether
I
it's
mean,
an
I think
Elijah Mitchell, Travis Etienne, Michael Carter, someone.
Those are all running backs I'd rather not trade for if I have one of those top guys.
So let me ask you, like Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry, what running back would you look to move into, and what draft pick would you think makes it up?
Okay, let's see.
Like, would you want to go into an Aaron Jones? I think that's somewhat reasonable.
No.
Nah.
I don't want to.
I feel like that's a lateral move at that point.
It's probably a down to not even
Josh Jacobs. Josh?
No.
Oof.
No.
I mean,
Playoff
what about J.K. Dobbins? Where?
See, the thing is that I think that's going to be such a similar price.
Or even if you go to what about Josh Jacobs? Like, what about a guy like that?
I don't want Josh Jacobs either.
Who would you recommend, JT? Damian Harris?
The ones I'm looking at nah. Cam Akers.
That's what Cam Akers, but I think Cam Akers is kind of low. And if you wanted to do something like that, you'd probably have to do it right now. Before all the hype builds.
Benjamin Paul said he would trade it for Dak, but not give up Dak.
I mean, I think that's the consensus. I think the guy that has Dak is going to be hard pressed.
Yeah, so we're back to the drawing board.
Yeah, it's just a tough spot. I guess it's up to us to tell you what to do or to try and solve.
Well, what about you try to go into a tight end like a TJ Hawkinson or something, or a Darren?
I just don't like Hawkinson.
I don't like that.
Well, who do we fucking like? How about that? Who do we like?
We always go back to all roads lead back to Kyle Pitts. Do whatever it takes to get Kyle Pitts. That's my opinion.
I mean, yeah, but at the end, I think the safest.
They're probably good.
The safest route that I would look to go in is go for the likes of a T. Higgins, the likes of maybe an Elijah Moore, maybe Terry McLaurin, a guy that's had a bad year that you could.
I think T. Higgins is worth more than Dalvin Cook right now.
Yeah, I think you'd have an issue trading those guys straight up for T. Higgins.
And the problem, Andrews, I think is worth more than Dalvin Cook too. I think T.J. Hawkinson could be a nice little value because I think you could get a decent draft capital on top of Dalvin Cook for T.J. Hawkinson. It really depends on the manager though, because I think that the astute owners, the astute students in the classroom, would remember that T.J. Hawkinson was pretty damn highly valued at the start of the season. And he's still a consensus top 5. I mean, not consensus, but he's on Keep Trade Cut a top 5 tight end.
I still like Noah Fant.
Yeah, but I think that T.J. Hawkinson could really have a breakout year in year 4. That's the year that year 3, year 4.
Now you have me thinking. Ready? Noah Fant, tight end 1 last week. We'll do Dalvin Cook for Noah Fant, and what we got on top. I gotta imagine you get good draft capital on Noah Fant.
Yeah, you could definitely get at least a first.
Yeah,
I mean, you might be able to get more than. It really depends on where that first is at.
All right. Well, mid first is like way too much. Like the Dalvin Cook size, not giving up enough, and a late first was the opposite. So it's somewhere in between a mid.
No, I think a mid first is. Once again, like it's rookie fever is gonna hit. So these picks are gonna get pretty damn expensive sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So it'll probably be a late first, right? But in that late first, there's still the likes of. I don't think Kenneth Walker will make it to the late first by the time.
No.
I mean, it depends
on
what
about a tight end like Dawson Knox? I feel like at that point, it's not.
Oh.
I don't want to pay up. Like, I don't want to break up Dalvin Cook into Dawson fucking Knox. I think that's my problem.
But if you're breaking Dalvin Cook into Noah Fant and Zach Charbonnet, or Noah Fant and I'd probably draft a receiver at that point. Noah Fant and David Bell, Noah Fant and Drake London, Noah Fant, and
Noah Fant and Drake London is something that's starting to sauce me up a little bit.
That I think that's the only solution that realistically would work.
Hypothetically, what about just like 2 contender firsts? That's it.
I think I would do that. I mean, maybe that's the play. Maybe we would have to go for just draft picks.
I think that's the play because at that point, even if you're taking a pick this year and a pick next year, or if they want to push it off till 2024, even the pick this year and pick in 2024, I think that's the play because, like I said, if you could scoop a Drake London this year and then in 2024 have 2 firsts and be in the running for who's in that class? That's a good class as well, is it not?
Dude, 2023?
2024.
Okay, so you got Braylon Allen, you got the Ohio State running back Travion Henderson. You got Caleb Williams. You got that Miami QB who I think is pretty underrated. You got Brock Bowers. You got that Texas receiver Xavier Worthy. You got some nice players looking like in 2024, and that's already.
So I think, and that exactly, and it's only going to increase from there as players pop up in the next 2 years. So I think if you can just get straight up 2 contender firsts, I think that's probably the play here, rather than taking a dice roll on a potential wasteland tight end.
Well, see, because I'm also thinking back to our rebuild trade that we did. We traded what was it? We traded Zeke for a first and Darnell Mooney, and then traded Mooney in a second for a first. So the trade ended up basically being Zeke in a second for 2 firsts. And Dalvin Cook is definitely worth more now than Zeke was in the offseason last year.
Right. If you have to throw in, a third, 2/3 to get the trade done, I don't think that's a problem.
But we look so good right now trading Zeke in a second for 2 firsts. Yeah.
I guess it depends on how you like Mooney, but I still don't think you'd be able to trade Mooney for a first. He gets too much hate.
All right. I think we're running out of time though for the running back draft.
Oh yeah, we're not going to be able to do the running back draft. That's just fake news.
So might as well just finish it off with some of these other guys. Like Jake, you have Travis Kelsey. What the heck do you do with Travis Kelsey?
Dog, I ask myself the same question every week. I don't know. Like, you could try to trade him. I mean, he's probably going to have another top 4 tight end season next year. So I think if you're a contender's really looking for a tight end, you could ship him off. I don't think you'll get much more than a late first at this point. You could try to transition into like a Noah Fant and an early second, maybe. I don't even know if you'll get that. People are obviously Kelsey is 32 at this point. It just puts him in a really weird spot because he is still a top tight end. But the fall off for tight ends has historically happened very quickly. We've seen it with Jimmy Graham and a bunch of other guys. So I think if you have to trade Kelsey this offseason, which is a bummer for a guy, me personally, who's had him for all these tight end one seasons for the past like 5 years. So
yeah, I just think the thing is that his keep trade cut values at around like Devontae Smith, a couple other guys. Hold on, it's 5,300. So it's like a pretty Antonio Gibson. I just
DJ
don't think you're
Moore.
going to get that. DJ Moore, Saquon
No,
Barkley. I
would
think
not
that he's
trade
well
DJ
under
Moore
that
for
right
Travis
now.
Kelsey. Yeah, I'm not giving up DJ.
I
Moore
think
for
your
Travis
best
Kelsey.
bet is a late first at this point for Travis Kelsey, which just sucks to do. It really does. No matter how old he is, and how much you think he's going to fall off next year, trading a guy that's been a top 5 tight end for the past 7 years really is just a brutal trade.
I don't know if I want to give up a late first for him. I think I might just keep him.
That's the argument.
What's stopping him from pulling a couple Gronk type
trade him?
seasons?
I mean, what about Waller? You guys holding him, or should I try to trade him? I think Waller's.
I'm holding because I like Waller.
I think Waller's in the same boat. I mean, I think Waller's 30 now, is he not?
Yeah, but he hasn't
30.
played nearly as much as Travis Kelsey.
It doesn't matter. Like it's like your body starts to deteriorate at that age, no matter how much you've played. It just expedites.
Unless you're Tom Brady.
Yeah, unless you're a freak. I think I would trade Waller too. The problem is the tight end position is as a whole, especially in tight end premium leagues, it's such a valuable spot because it creates such an advantage if you have a good one that like you might just say I'm gonna ride Kelsey till he dies and then just pick up another one.
Darren Waller's tight end 6 on keep trade cut. I mean, I guess Andrews definitely jumped him. Hawkinson, I guess.
Yeah, Benjamin, I think you're right. That's kind of the boat that you have to decide in. It's like you either have to accept that you're going to take a losing trade on Kelsey, or he's just going to have to die on your roster. To be honest, I think I'm more in the I'd rather have him die on my fucking roster boat than trade him for. Dude, if he comes out here and has another top 3 tight end season, I am really going to regret trading him for that late first round pick. I may.
You may not, though. You may not. If you can
Maybe
get
I
it,
don't.
yeah, if you're going to get like 109 for him and you end up with Garrett Wilson or Drake London, how bad do you feel then? Like, you don't feel that bad.
Well, I mean, we don't know what those players will end up being. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking this year, like you trade Travis Kelsey for the likes of Jalen Waddle or
yeah. Oh yeah, you're probably pretty feeling
Zach Wilson.
Damn good about yourself if you traded him for Jalen Waddle.
It depends on if you hit in your rookie draft, though, which is obviously
it leaves a chance, but I don't know how bad you feel if you take that late first. It just sucks because you're not going to find a tight end to replace him probably this season.
The worst though is it's Kyle Pitts and then everyone else in terms of I don't think you could trade any of those next guys for Kyle Pitts without like a massive overpay. Like
probably
just
not.
Massive overpay. Like you're better off just trading other things than these tight ends because these tight ends are just not valued like Kyle Pitts is valued. So to move from tight end 2 to tight end 1 is probably a ridiculous price that no one's going to want to pay.
Yeah, Benjamin, I think a lot of Kelsey owners were in the same boat because I was in a league too where I was trying to buy Kelsey. I offered a first, a second, and Darnell Mooney and was hard rejected. Like I got laughed at. And I think that people were trying to get the tight end 1 price, but no one wanted to pay the tight end 1 price this season. And now it's gone down still. It's like he's in the same boat as last year. He's just worth less now. It's like, okay, he's valued and everyone agrees that he's a top 5 tight end, but no one wants to pay the top 5 tight end price for him.
So wait, you offered a first, second, and Mooney and got rejected for Kelsey?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm looking back at it, I'm pretty glad that I got rejected. It might have helped me in the championship run, but we would not have won. The guy went off in our league. So, dude, want to hear something funny? It was a rematch of the championship last year, and we got smacked twice in a row. We got smacked.
That sucks.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it does feel like you're just going to have to decide, like, okay, am I okay with this guy being worth nothing on my roster next year, but potentially giving me another playoff shot, playoff appearance, whatever I do in the playoffs is more.
Well, what if you moved him for like a David Montgomery? Is that possible?
That's interesting.
I would think so. I don't know if I'd necessarily do that though, because I'm not the biggest David Montgomery guy.
Or what if you tried for an Aaron Rodgers? You went from one old fart to another.
Well, I think
you got to start getting some creativity here instead of just wallowing in our misery.
First, I think you should get more than Aaron Rodgers on top, but I also like the difference from Aaron Rodgers to whatever quarterback, and difference from Travis Kelsey to whatever tight end. Like the potential production that they could give is like Travis Kelsey is keeping you in playoff games when he's at his peak. Aaron Rodgers is just. He's status quo, I think. Like, I just think the positional advantage that Travis Kelsey gives you if he's at his peak is way better than Aaron Rodgers at his peak.
Well, Travis Kelsey, could I get Zach Wilson plus for him?
I don't know about plus, but I think you could do a 1-for-1 swap of.
What about Hollywood?
I don't want Hollywood, but
yeah, I wouldn't want Hollywood. But
am I the only guy that likes Hollywood here?
Yes. Yeah. You're talking to the sell-all Ravens guy and the Bateman lover over there.
That's true.
True. Amari Schmoop? Any love for the Schmoop? Schmoop plus?
No, I'd probably still rather just have Kelsey because I think you're in similar position if you go to Amari Cooper.
D-Hop plus?
Maybe.
The plus on D-Hop would be interesting.
Yeah, just because of that. Now my other question is, what is Kelsey and an early second get you? Something like that. A mid-second. Kelsey and something like that. What can you trade into?
I gotta imagine mid-first.
Yeah, that sounds like a kind of like a draft day trade. Like you're trying to trade up from your early second into the first.
Look, you got a guy. Yeah, I could definitely see this now. Like looking at right, you're picking at 206. Injuries caused you to miss the playoffs, and you have a guy who's sitting there at 108, 109, somewhere in that range, who just made the playoffs. But he's like that one piece away from really competing and really giving it all. At least in his mind, he is. And you give up that Travis Kelsey plus your 206 for that 108 or 109. I could see that happening pretty easily. Maybe even 107.
Yeah, you snag a Drake London or something.
Yeah, draft day fever could be.
Yeah, that might be.
It depends with the NFL draft too.
I mean, we just said Kelsey was probably worth a late first straight up, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's 110, 111, 112. There's going to be a big difference.
Okay, well, I think the first thing we need to ask ourselves though is the cliff here? Like, is Travis Kelsey going to just suck next year, or is he going to do a similar thing to this year again?
I mean, he's tied to what's considered to be the top quarterback in the league. I don't think there's any question about it.
Because his price right now is that he's going to be a highly, like a top 3 tight end next year and potentially the year after. Where it's like, if you were deathly scared of him sucking, why not just move him for Aaron Jones and like a second? Where you go from one older asset to another older asset and you get a draft pick. And you hope that the older asset that you go into doesn't die next year.
That's a risky
I think you're in the same boat, though.
I think that's a very risky proposition.
It does feel like you're playing with fire there.
Yeah, because you end up trading Travis Kelsey plus a little bit for Dalvin Cook, and now we're just back in the same position of what we give up Dalvin Cook for. It's just
Dude, I don't know. I'm just throwing
ongoing
shit at the
cycle.
wall and seeing what sticks. All right.
Yeah,
I think
think
what's sticking on at least Travis Kelsey is you just let him die. Just
No. How about this? No, I
I
got one
think
more
you
idea.
have to get out.
What about
my advice is get out.
What about Rondale Moore in a first?
Yes,
Is that possible?
Though.
I mean, I think that's possible.
I mean, you have Rondale Moore. Jake has Travis Kelsey in our home league.
Yeah.
Does that work? Jake, are you giving up Kelsey for Moore in a first?
What pick?
110.
Frank, what are you? 110
or 111? I'm 111.
More than 111 for Kelsey?
I mean,
is it a fair trade at least?
Yeah, I think
it's it's something that like I'd consider. I don't think I actually end up doing it. Just because
apparently it's an overpay on the Moore side.
Yeah, now that
I would do that if I had Travis Kelsey. I think
it's not by much though, by a fucking Terrace Marshall or a Trey Sermon. So it's like essentially an even.
So JT's favorites from last year. It's going to depend who's on the board because I do like the back end of the first this year. I think there's a lot of good value in that pick. But that doesn't mean I think I should trade away my tight end, especially because what's going to happen is when you trade away Travis Kelsey, who's stepping into that tight end spot? You do have to play a tight end every week.
Wait, so you're thinking of keeping Travis Kelsey in that trade? Okay, then that's a fair trade. Then it's a fair trade.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's a fair trade.
On what we're receiving.
Jake's in the. We've figured out. We got into the bottom of it. Jake's now. He's made it clear. He's in the let Kelsey die on your roster unless you get an overpay for Kelsey, which you probably won't.
Yeah,
I'm in the get out now on Kelsey.
Just because of especially in a non-tight end premium league, I think I get out 100%. But in a tight end premium league, it just provides such an advantage. A Kelsey who's going to get you 6, 7, 8 receptions a week. That's just such an advantage over the next guy who's starting Tyler Higbee, who's starting, Gerald Everett. Like there's a lot of tight ends that are just the wasteland. And if you have a guy that's going to be at the top, regardless of age, it's tough to go out of that and want to take on a wastelander, regardless of what you get.
Wait, you don't think this is looking? Oh, geez, my wrong screen. Sorry. God, I have this all fucked up. Where's the wasteland?
I'm now having to watch on YouTube and wait.
Yeah, the execution was poor, but you guys get the point. I'm pulling up a picture of a wasteland. If you couldn't tell.
Oh, there it is.
What? This doesn't look appetizing to you? This wasteland here? I don't know. No. I think I might be willing to jump into the wasteland because I see. Oh, look over there. That's a Rondale Moore. Oh, look at that. That might be a 2024 first.
Yeah, that's what you see out there. Look, I think Rondale Moore has gone from he was kind of overvalued after his one really good game. Then now I think he's back to being undervalued pretty heavily. And you've said it yourself, Jake. You like these late first round picks. Specifically the receivers I like. And if the receivers I feel like are making it that long, especially the top 4, who I'm still struggling to out which one's the 1, 2, 3, and 4 in my rankings. If I think they're making it that far, I'd just rather have those guys. And then I get that every week you have to start a tight end, but at some point, Travis Kelsey is not going to give you that positional advantage. And whether that's this year, next year, 2, 3 years down the line, that's the big question. And that's where you go and preach, like, get out too early and not too late. So
yeah, chatters, what do we think? Rondale Moore in 111 or Kelsey? What are you taking?
It's a very fair trade. I don't dislike it. Just unless you have a tight end like that could step in, unless like not even a top one, but just like a guy that could step in and be semi-productive right behind him. If you're going to the likes of Gerald Everett, Tyler Higbee, I'm just not gonna like. It's such a tough move.
See, the thing though is that I really don't think right now it's impossible to trade for a guy like a Kittle, a TJ Hawkinson, or a Darren Waller. Robert Miller's saying he wants Kelsey in that. Dallas Goedert too. I think Dallas Goedert is a guy that could easily jump into a pretty good tight end spot. I mean, he's been playing well recently, and fuck, he's not very, very high, it seems like. Like I think just because you trade Kelsey away doesn't mean that you can't then go and trade for another tight end.
Right. I think it would definitely, at least if you're trying to build a contending roster for next season, it would have to be paired with another move to bring in a Hawkinson, a Fant, any of those, lesser of the
Everyone's saying Kelsey. Everyone's saying Kelsey.
I'm in the boat though of I think Rondale Moore is getting. If you had said a different wide receiver around the price of Rondale Moore, which let me now go and look up where Rondale Moore is currently being ranked, I might be in the Kelsey boat. But yeah, like if you're telling me Kadarius Toney or you're telling me Darnell Mooney plus this, then it's a different story. But I just think Rondale Moore is getting underrated at this point for someone that I think can have Deebo Samuel like potential in Arizona offense.
Yeah, does the trade change at all if you put in a Kadarius Toney or some of those other receivers you said? Who else did you say?
So players ranked around where Rondale Moore are, I'll do the 5 above and below.
This is a question for chat, by the way. Like, does this change at all for you guys?
Bateman, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, Mooney, Claypool, Hopkins. And on the other side, you got Hunter Renfrow, Kadarius Toney, Lockett, Mike Williams.
No, Gallup, I think Rondo was just injured. I'm not sure. I don't think he was a healthy scratch. I think he was ruled out. I don't know what for. So maybe he was, but I don't think he was.
All right, but any of those guys, like, I mean, maybe I'm just higher on Rondale Moore than consensus, and that could be why.
Well, I am too. I think I'd rather have Rondale Moore than those guys, but I know that there are people that still really like Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, it was an ankle injury for Rondale Moore.
Like, I imagine there might be people that are still interested in giving up a first-round pick for Kadarius Toney, even though it might be fewer and fewer by the day. It's interesting.
So it's going to be a life's greatest question for this offseason. And if Kelsey has another good year the following offseason, and it's going to be...
Joe Herbert saying that Bateman's very interesting in that trade.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to get that, though.
Okay, Benjamin Paul just said that Rondale was the problem.
Okay, maybe it's our Rondale evaluation as steering people away. It seems like you could get a receiver that you like plus a late first for Kelsey, and you could trade Kelsey for a receiver that you like in a late first.
Andy said he's not a fan of Rondale, but he's still keeping Kelsey. I mean, I guess that's a type of deal you could consider, though, if you had a Kelsey. I mean, dude, you could just fire those bitches off like bang, 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 bang for every receiver that you like. And if you need a little more, why not throw a little pick swap on there? Just a little something, something. But I don't know. I think it's tough to get more than something like that for Kelsey. I think at the end of the day for Kelsey, unless you can get someone that really wants to buy him as a contender, maybe you have to wait until during next season and wait for him to like pop off for everyone to be like, oh shit, Kelsey's like a beast. I forgot. Maybe you trade him then, but if you're going to do it in the off season, you're probably going to have some creativity to really squeeze out as much value as you can. And because that goes there definitely is an argument for just holding him.
Where did you end up falling on that line, Frank? Are you holding or are you trading?
For Rondale and 111?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I would do is turn that 111 into a 2024 first and see what happens.
Fair. I guess.
And if I can do that for a 2020, I mean, I would try for a 2023 first, though, but the jury's kind of out on that.
I don't think you can move 111 for 2023 first.
Yeah, that's why I would go for 2024. So I would look for a 2024 first and Rondale Moore. And I think I'd be happy with that to a certain extent. I have Kelsey in one league, and I traded him for Saquon and 2 round ones. That's a steal.
How?
Robert Miller, I wish I had your wit or whatever powers you have.
Obviously, Saquon's value is down, but to get 2 first for Kelsey alone, you probably won't get in most leagues, at least.
All right, I guess.
Yeah, I'm lost on that.
Let's go. Rodgers and Mike Evans are the last 2 guys we have on here. I mean, Mike Evans and Keenan Allen, I guess you can kind of interchange to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Let's go for those guys. I think it's more interesting. Or do you want to go with Rodgers?
I think the receivers are more interesting, just because Rodgers, likely, if you're a contender, you're going to hold him just because his upside's a top 10 QB for the season. But if you're not, then I don't think the price will be that high. I think it'll be probably late first, early second for Rodgers. Probably late first, more so. But
I don't know. Aaron Rodgers is kind of high. He's ranked above Russell Wilson right now.
That's just blasphemy.
Well, Russell Wilson's also. I mean, listen, I do that too. I love Russell Wilson, but you're talking to the biggest Russell Wilson lover this side of the Mississippi. It's funny just because I wanted to touch on Mike Evans and Keenan Allen because these are 2 receivers that I really liked in Dynasty. I traded a first round pick for Keenan Allen in our home league. I think these are 2 guys that if you had them recently, you've been very, very happy with the production and have been very happy to hold them. But I think this is the year that I am looking to sell both of them, which is kind of shocking for me to say, but it's kind of a similar reason to why I sold Allen Robinson last year, in that we're talking about 29 and 28 and 30-year-old receivers that every single person is going to say they're undervalued, they're worth it. They're worth to trade for. And it seems like we're getting into this mode where it's like, because we've been so accustomed to these guys being towards the top of the leaderboards and being super consistent, they're tied to good quarterbacks, that we think that the journey will just keep continuing for years and years and years. And yeah, maybe it could be an Adam Thielen. But dude, the microsecond that these guys have any semblance of struggling, look at Mike Evans early in the year, right? He has one bad week 1. He doesn't even have a bad week 1, and his value tanked. I am getting out of these players if I can get the keep trade cut value for these guys, I'm out, because it's over a first round pick. And
for receivers, see, this is the difference right here on these guys compared to the tight end position in Kelsey, where we just left, is that there is so many wide receivers. There's so many. There's about 4 tight ends that I like. So if I could even just, downgrade at wide receiver out of these guys into a slightly younger asset, not even like super young, 25, 26, 27, in that range, get 2 more years of production and pick up a pick. I think that's the move on these guys. And that's just because of just the vast amounts of wide receivers that are available. Even guys like Hunter Renfrow, he came out of nowhere this year to be a top receiver this year, which is crazy in its own right. But if you could pick up another receiver and a pick, it just feels like the move on these guys. And
you guys want to know a fun stat? I don't know if it's ready a stat, for this. Technically. Yeah, I don't know if it's a stat now I'm saying it, but just an interesting thing to observe. Mike Evans, he had 213 fantasy points last year. This year he has 202. Right, so 11 less points. He played 1 less game too, though. So 11 less points, basically like nearly the exact same season. Like he's finishing like right around the same spot. According to Keep Trade Cut, he's lost an early second worth of value, and he's just had the same season. Just by holding on to Mike Evans and having the exact same season that he's had, you've lost an early second worth of value, which is crazy. That's the price of Mike Evans getting 1 year older.
Well, yeah, the other thing too, though, and we saw this with D-Hop, right? The name is the reason why he's holding value still. It's not because of, I mean, Brandon Cooks is worth way less than him, and he has 20 less fantasy points per week. What is that? Like a point and a half?
Something like that, yeah.
So, like, I just think that we're reaching the point where the risk is not worth the reward. Listen, I think if you want to hold, that's fine. Like, I like Keenan Allen. I like Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans especially is a Hall of Fame level talent. But the same thing was said for D-Hop. And the instant that this consistency, that this lock of, oh, this guy's going to finish with 1,000 yards goes away, so does his value. And we're just getting into the point where every single person in the Dynasty community is in agreement. We're like, oh, Mike Evans is undervalued. Mike Evans is going to put up 1,000 yards. Mike Evans is going to do this. Okay, maybe he could do it next year. Look at Adam Thielen, right? Adam Thielen, if you bought him 2 years ago, was probably a pretty damn good buy. But at the same time, there were points where Adam Thielen was worth way less than Mike Evans is now. Like, I just think that I could sell Mike Evans now, get a receiver that will give me a little bit less production, but for a third of the price, half the price, I can invest in more stable assets or park my value somewhere else. And then the instant that people start panicking on him, God forbid he has another bad week fucking 1 again and his value tanks, I could pick him up for cheaper during the season again. Or I could pick, I could do one of those. But I am just scared that an Allen Robinson D-Hop scenario is on the horizon for these guys.
Makes sense. So would you do Mike Evans for Brandon Cooks and a mid to early second?
I'm looking for a first for these guys. I'm looking for a singular first round pick.
Just straight up Mike Evans, first round pick?
Yeah.
That's fair.
I would be pretty comfortable I'm much more comfortable parking my value in the first than I am Mike Evans and Keenan Allen. Even as a contender, I'm willing to forego the points.
I'm assuming you're looking at, the 2023, 2024 class more so.
I at this point, just because like I'd rather have the randomness. I mean,
I also think as a contender to have the fluidity of a first round pick is a very valuable thing. Because if you're a contender,
the liquidity, do you mean? The fluidity. I don't know, what does the fluidity of a first round pick mean?
Just the liquidity, same thing.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
I don't know if you're talking about something different.
No, just the ability to move it around. Because if you could come the trade deadline and now someone's looking to trade Alvin Kamara, and you have a first round pick to throw at him. That's just an example from this year. Next year it'll probably be someone else, but that's just that's what I'm talking about. Now you could just pick up that piece that you're missing at the trade deadline and really take off for your playoff run, rather than not having a pick or being worried about trading away your only first round pick. And you could just do more with a first round pick compared to a player, because you're always going to have people that dislike that player or think you overvalue that player. And just a first round pick is a very stable asset.
Well, I mean, the other thing too, the last point on these guys is that Mike Evans is the highest price 8th season plus player, and the second highest is Keenan Allen. You think these guys are going up anytime soon? No fucking shot. Other than Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is the only other 8th season player that is valued this highly. And he's another probably consensus sell by the Dynasty community. But like, I mean, we talked about him earlier. There's no need to go back into the same discussion. I'd be very glad to park my value in a first round pick for these guys, and I would probably avoid them in startups as well. I'm just not comfortable anymore taking them at their ADP.
I think we're going to see their ADP drop significantly, and by May, definitely, when the NFL draft happens, we're going to see them a lot lower than what they're at currently.
Yeah, I don't want to buy them at this price that they're at. I would, but like, if you're asking me, who would I rather have, D-Hop at his price or Mike Evans at his price? I'm easily taking D-Hop at that discount. And I'm just scared that that's what's going to happen to these guys, is that they're going to get the D-Hop treatment with one injury. 2 bad games, 1 bad game, and all of a sudden their value tanks. And then see any chance of trading him for a first round pick ever again.
Yeah. We're 3 months from the NFL draft. I don't think it takes rocket scientists to think that 3 months from now their value is going to be lower than it will be now. Like there's no way they're gaining value from here on out.
Yeah, and especially investing it in an asset that is a 2024 first round pick is guaranteed to gain value. It will not go down. I will bet all of my money on it. It will go up in value.
Kyle Shanahan, what if we're all dead by 2024?
All right, you guys want to talk? This episode's going long, but I feel like people are into it. Well, where are you guys on Calvin Ridley and Robert Woods?
Calvin Ridley's the weird one. Robert Woods, I'm selling.
Robert Woods, I don't think you can get much at this point.
I would buy Robert Woods. I don't love it, but if I could buy him at a discount, I would buy him.
For what?
I was out on Robert Woods before this year.
Maybe.
I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't give up a mid-second for him.
I don't know. I would attempt to nickel and dime the Robert Woods manager if he's panic selling. Because I picked up Tyler Lockett for like $210 this year. And we swapped first round pick years. So like I was pretty happy with doing that. So like a late second and a little bit of juice might be able to land you a Robert Woods at prime draft type. It really depends on the guy and the team situation, but you never know. I would try because you could get a productive wide receiver 3 flex player with wide receiver 2 upside for pennies on the dollar.
I think Robert Woods is this year's lesser Kenny Golladay, where people kept trying to trade Kelly and Golladay and like couldn't. And then, in season now, Kenny Golladay is even lower than where Kenny Golladay was. I think you're just going to have to either cut ties or just similar to Travis Kelsey, kind of just think he's going to die on your roster and you're just going to live with his production, whatever that may be. And I'm personally not that high on what his production will be, especially if we think that the Rams are sticking with OBJ.
Calvin Ridley is interesting because if you bought Calvin Ridley, and I was someone that was probably more on the buy Calvin Ridley than sell. Then again, I think that we were all, for the most part, on the whole. I didn't buy Calvin Ridley in any of my leagues personally. And if you bought Calvin Ridley at like right after he took this break, you're probably pretty unhappy with what you paid for him.
Yeah.
So like, if there was a time to buy, it feels like it's now. What? Because it seems like no one's talking about him, and his value's just dropping more and more. But I don't know. It's still very risky.
The owner's not going to sell for anything less than a first, just because he's still relatively young.
I think you can get an early second for him if he doesn't announce he's coming. I don't think he's worth a first round pick anymore, to be honest.
I don't think you're getting a first at this point.
Right, but I don't think
you say relatively young, but he's like the same age as Mike Evans. He's like a year younger than Mike Evans. He just came into the league really late. Yeah. I think with Calvin Ridley, it's just like the longer you go without any updates, similar to Deshaun Watson, the less is. I mean, obviously these are very different situations in terms of like what is going on with the actual player, but the longer you wait and don't hear any news, like the lower and lower his value is going to be. So I don't know. Calvin Ridley was someone though that I was always kind of low on, and now we don't know what's going to go on with Matt Ryan and the quarterback position on the Falcons. We don't know what Calvin Ridley is coming, like when he's coming back, if he's coming back. There's just too many question marks for me where if I could get out on a reasonable price of that early second, which I think you probably could. I think an early second almost definitely gets it done. I'd do it, which hurts to say, but I'm more of the risk adverse guy anyway. Like I would never have traded for Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't trade for Deshaun Watson. I would trade him away if I could for the most part. The only ones that I'm willing to trade for potentially are the likes of Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins. Like I'll go for injuries. I won't really go for those just
for nonsense. You're a no nonsense kind of a guy.
No nonsense center back.
What would you want in addition to Elijah Mitchell for Waddle? I think probably a first at least.
Yeah.
So what on top of Mitchell for Waddle?
Yeah.
It would have to be a first.
I'm just not a big Elijah Mitchell guy. I think you.
I just think Shanahan uses whoever is healthy at running back. So
I don't know if you're getting a first though on top of Elijah Mitchell because you gotta think he is still like a running back who is producing at a young age.
I think you could definitely get a first on top of him.
Waddle is like
you think
top,
so?
Yeah,
he's like a top 8 wide receiver right now in Dynasty.
Yeah, but Mitchell's like I don't even like Mitchell, but he's a top 20 running back, almost top 15.
Did it go from a top 20 running back to a top 10 wide receiver?
I just think why would you sell Waddle? Why would you sell Waddle for anything less than a first on top of Elijah Mitchell? It's just
I wouldn't. I like Waddle a lot more because I just don't like Elijah Mitchell, but I don't like with running back being such a premium position and this guy being what appears to be a starting running back. I don't know. I would trade. I would trade a first and Elijah Mitchell for Jalen Waddle.
Oh, I would do it that way.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if we're in the majority opinion on that. I wouldn't give up a mid first plus Elijah Mitchell.
I think there is a good group of people that would say they would much rather have Waddle than Elijah Mitchell in a first.
But look, I'm not giving up a mid first plus Elijah Mitchell for Jalen Waddle. Like if we're talking 107 or 108, where I think at least 2 of the top 4 receivers in this class are, like I don't think that the difference is that big from Waddle to one of these top guys.
Yeah, but I just think that you could get someone to give you a juicy 2024 first and Elijah Mitchell for Waddle.
You love these 2024 first.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm gonna be acquiring some of these bad boys pretty soon. Just you wait.
All right. That a good place to cut it?
I think so. I think this was a good episode.
Good long one.
A little long.
We didn't even get to our last segment, but it was kind of fun answering questions and just talking theory.
Yeah, we went a little off the rails.
I hope everyone else enjoyed. I mean, we're just like brainstorming a strategy and everything. I don't know if that's, comment on the YouTube if you made it this far, if that's something you like, or if you want us to switch it up, go back to the rankings or stuff. Like, I mean, with this offseason, I'm all game for whatever kind of topics people want to hear about. So yeah, but thank you all for listening. Thank you everyone who was hanging out with us on the YouTube chat. Shout out everyone. We hit 200 subscribers on the YouTube, so that was pretty cool. Thanks everyone.
Peace out, guys.
Thanks, guys.